And how do I? Okay. And then, okay, so if I minimize this, this is where I get.
Oh, you want to share screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Screen share.
And then that would be it. Okay. You have it. Okay. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. I hope that was the same one. I thought it was.
I think it's this one right there, right?
1066. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully it's working. And then where's the? Is this the thing?
Oh, no. We're not using that camera this year.
Okay, so it'll just be a solid.
It's just a
No,
solid,
that's
yeah.
fine. That makes it easier. All right, perfect.
I'll be in and out.
Okay, I'll hunt you down.
Okay.
Good. One more thing. One more thing. One more thing.
I'm not sure. I think we just have to start.
Hey, we're
This is if you have it.
Okay, let's get to the next
Okay, I think we've had this.
We got some.
Oh, you did it. You look Yeah, I like to too. I'm gonna read the rest of it. Oh my goodness. How are you? Good.
I don't think we have anyone online. Yeah.
This year or never year?
And later, oh, I'm gonna be in the middle.
Did you see the update? That is a
So we need yours too. Yeah.
351. Remember the numbers.
All righty. Well, welcome to the home of SDAC, and we are excited to have such an amazing group here. Have some new faces, so I'm going to share a little bit about this group, but also introduce who I am, because many of you are like, who is this gal? I'm Tamara Conradi, and I have the amazing privilege of getting to lead the professional learning team here at SDAC. And the other role is going out and facilitating leadership, professional learning, and individual and group coaching. And that has been a huge gift, not just to, I think, those that receive it, but also to me, because I learn something new every time I get to experience it. In, I think, 9 states now. So I want to thank you for committing to coming and collaborating with other people in similar positions. The piece about this group is, number one, it's a very informal group. And we continue to grow and grow and grow. And it is not just limited to member districts. So if you know other curriculum leaders that want to join us and are okay with our craziness, then please have them join us. Because a huge value of this is that there truly is collaboration and synergy that happens. And we share, we steal, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Holly Francis is the actual leader of this PLC. Holly, you want to share a little bit about who you are? And
I'm not like energetic.
she's Superwoman.
I just organize everything. So don't expect a lot from me as far as getting all happy and excited about everything. Tamara's in charge of all that. I am Holly Francis. I'm the assistant soup in Augusta, and have been a member of this group when I used to be out of Redmond and Haven, and have just continued to be a member and have kind of helped Tamara facilitate and organize. We kind of change every year and do different things. But I do think we've kind of got it at a place where it's really good and we're getting some things accomplished that people leave and feel like, maybe not with a breath, like a breath of fresh air. It's almost like, oh my God, I have more to do. But at least you know what you're doing. Like you at least know you have people that are supporting you, that if you have questions, there's actual support documents or things that you can grab onto to have a better idea of what you're supposed to be doing in your roles. The thing you also need to remember is all of us in every district have kind of a similar role, but sometimes very different roles. Some districts have certain people do certain things, and other districts they don't. So we may, on occasion, be talking about LCP or the personnel report, or you may not be the test coordinator. And we will talk about those things. And if we are, and you're not a part of that, or you're not responsible for that, you always know that you can just sit and work on something else until we move on to the next topic. It's hard to know who does what and such. So welcome, and if you haven't noticed, the agendas are always very large. Don't stress. What we do is we try to work through them. Many of them are things that we recycle through or we get to next time. We try not to rush through things, so if we don't get to things on the agenda, we don't panic, we don't freak out. It'll be there next time. Many times, what we've tried to do is put links into there that are available to you to open and access in a view, usually a view-only format. If you are a Google user, you can open up the link, make a copy of it if you want to take it and steal it and use it yourself and make changes to it. We also have a Google folder, and that's the thing I probably need to, and I will share it out here in a little bit, but we have, oh, I hate, okay, hold on. Anyhow, we have a Google folder that I will share out, and within that folder are many, many different folders that contain lots of different pieces of information and documents that we dump in there. Later on this morning, I will take us to that so I'll share it with everyone. You can see what's in there, and it really is just a place that houses lots and lots of different documents, and you're welcome to share and put things in there as you see fit. So,
and I'm going to say, if you do not have access to it, just put your name, district, and email right on this. So I'll just start passing this around.
Then I will share that later this morning.
Because many of you have access.
Before we move on, and Tamara's going to do our getting started activity today, one thing we're going to try this year, not at every meeting, is something called Photo Circle. And it is an app that you can acquire on your phone, and it looks like that right over there. So when you're looking for an app, you can put it onto your phone, and what you can do is you can take pictures of different things that are occurring in your district. And the way that we will use it as a getting started activity on occasion is you'll have not really an assignment, but on the agenda, it'll tell you, when you go back this month, take 5 pictures, and then here, these are the things that you can take pictures of. And then when we meet next time, well, you can open up, it's kind of like a big collage with all these different pictures of ideas and things like that from all the different districts, and we'll have you share out a couple of your pictures that you've dumped or taken and put in there. You can download them, you can take them directly from your phone and put them in there. There is a link here that you can go to, and you can access ours. It's called ESDAC Curriculum Leaders. You can access it through the link, or if you go to and you get the app downloaded, then you can type in that PIN number, and that will give you access to it as well. So I'm going to share that with you now, and if we have some problems with it later on and you need some help with it on a break or something, we can work with you and get you through that. All right, Cam. I just told you can go ahead and start. Okay. They can go ahead and you can give them a minute if you want to, if you guys want to get that downloaded. While you're doing that, I'll kind of let you know what we're going to do for October is you'll post 5 pictures that display evidence of activities representing and supporting the Kansas Can outcomes such as social emotional growth, kinder readiness, IPS, high school graduation rates, post-secondary success and attendance. One or more of the 5 R's that are going on, and or a quality professional learning activity that supports the Kansas Learning Forward Professional Learning Standards. So those are just some things that when you come back, you can share a couple of pictures, things that are going on in your district that are related to this. And then what we'll do every other month or so is we'll change what you're taking pictures of and let you share whatever it might be that we've asked you to collect. And the nice thing is this is this photo circle. You'll always have access to all of these pictures. So maybe somebody shared a poster or an activity that's going on, and it's something you could take back and share with people in your district. The other great thing about this is you can create a photo circle for any group that you work with in your district. So you might, I was thinking the other day, we have a wellness thing that's going on right now throughout the school year. And I'm going to create a photo circle where they can take selfies or pictures of themselves completing the different challenges that are in our quarterly activities. You might do something where grade level or department types of PLCs from different buildings are taking pictures of things that they're doing in their classrooms, and then during a PLC they could share those activities or things out with their group members. When I went to AVID conference, this is something where our group, they created a photo circle, and we took different pictures of things that were going on during our session over the course of the 3 days. So there's lots of different ways you can use it. Again, just one more app that is a way to help better collaborate with people.
And this afternoon, we have Kyle, right, from Bueller coming in to help us with some tech applications, and maybe if we have questions with that, we can mess around with it as well. So you leave here knowing what it is, how to practice it, if you want to go take a selfie with that.
Yeah, the activity he's going to do is book snaps, and then we're going to use your book snap that he teaches you to create, and he's going to give you 2 or 3 ways of doing that, to upload into a Flipgrid account, so you're going to get both at the same time. You're going to use your book snap inside the Flipgrid. So,
Love it. So that's kind of the format of these meetings. Like the morning is more just tactical. Let's talk about how some of it's just regulation. I mean, that is your world. You get to make sure that some of the check boxes are checked off. And the thing about this group I love is that you still focus on the moral purpose of why you do what you do, and that's the vision. But the afternoon, it's learning. So it's optional. You don't have to stay. If you need to work on something else, you choose what's going to best serve you as the learner. So this afternoon it is book snaps. How many of you have done book snaps? And then what about Flipgrid? Oh, that's so good. Okay, great. So thank you for getting here. The first activity we're going to do, and the purpose of this is we have a lot of new faces. And I wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to, number one, talk to each other, and number two, meet new people and get to know who's in the room. So it's called Window Pane Introduction. So I would like you to self-select another group. You're going to be in groups of 5. But I would like you to go and get in a group of 5 with people you do not know well. So there's a group back here, 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 and here. So if you can just go and have one person from each group come and get one marker each. There's blue, red, and black, I believe. Then I'll introduce. Okay. 4 or 5. Oh, maybe we only need 4 groups. 4 or 5 groups of 5. We're good. Yes. Yep. So Cindy, there might be a smaller group. No more than 5 in a group.
I gotta stay away from you.
Okay. So here is what we're going to do, and we're not going to spend an hour because some of you might be really great artists and want to spend lots of time on the details of this work. So the purpose is really just to get to know each other. We're going to do window pane introduction. So on this sheet of paper, you're just going to split it into 4s. And on the top left, you're going to put your name in, what your position is, and district. Just write it, each of you. On the top right, you are going to share in, it's going to be non-linguistic representation of 3 things you all have in common that's not related to education. So like here, they loved football, they all traveled to Colorado, and they all had children. So try and like come up with some other, like try it. Now, this one down here is draw a picture for each person of something that you don't think anyone else in this room knows. So as you can see, I mean, we have some criminals in our education system. It's like, I'm a little worried about that. No. So like, for example, the bus one is me. I totaled a car hitting a bus when I was a senior in high school. And so just something unique that no one else you don't think knows. Because that's how we're going to then introduce each other. And I'll tell you how we're going to do that in a minute. So instead of what do you hope to learn or experience, on that bottom right, this is what I want you to write. Ideas you have for the meetings for curriculum leaders, and or what you hope to gain from these times that we meet throughout the whole year. So if you have ideas of like different groupings or different ways of doing things, put it on there. Or what do you hope to gain and really learn or grow it with our time together? Okay, so what questions do you have about this? We're going to shoot for being done with the actual drawing and all of that at 20 till. How's that sound? So I know we're already past, but then we'll introduce and then we'll get started with Mike and Steve, okay? I don't think I have. Holly? Do you? I just want to make sure before I stop it.
Well, we record it because we keep the recording.
Yeah, but I'm just, oh, okay. But I'm going to just hide this because I don't think we need that. Okay, perfect.
Are there other ones?
What's up with that? Oh, you know what?
Should we trade? We would trade you
Oh, yeah.
I can't.
No, I mean, no, I'm married.
It's like a little bit. Maybe we keep the doors open.
You guys are nice teams. I will for sure.
Yeah, we're already. Yeah.
And then just that looks like a big miss. How many things was it? 3. I love like I did. Where's that?
Yeah, that's what you
Where I was at, I was principal.
high school. First grade teacher.
No, I did not. But I got something like 300 books. Which is a little tough. I don't know.
Tell me this one again. Just to show you how to
Oh my God.
That'd be a stretch for me. That'd be a stretch.
Oh, gosh.
It's funny just she was right to that.
We could do like it says mine's little, and mine was little. What about I take all? What about great? I grew up on a
Before they require. Yeah, I remember that.
That's why I didn't do that.
I've never been there.
That's very same things.
Unique.
Oh, you're what? Oh, you are? It's so good to know. Me too.
I was actually Nashville Sears. Great quality, good service. Right there. That's what yeah, and it was Nashville.
About 6 more minutes.
I think we got that done for you, right?
My wife.
We're good.
We were
All right, on to like the next step.
I was like, my wife's like, ended up being what I was and I didn't think I was going to.
Okay.
I just did it.
I didn't think it was a good thing.
Is it a serious commercial? And then everyone told me I mean, that's what people did. Fast forward, like, well, then fast forward, like another so that's my little
Oh gosh, you got the artist.
I'm so glad.
like this kindergarten teacher.
She is quite, I just want
We're showing you
like a
There's software that's
Do you know that Karen might be I practice.
Okay. When you're finished, if you'll just put that up on the wall. And we're going to get started just introducing the team.
Yes, this is a white one, yes. Yeah, let's
Okay, again, if you haven't gotten to that one box where it says, what do you hope to gain from these meetings, or any ideas that you have for the success of them, make sure you write down that in that bottom right-hand corner. You can add to it as we go throughout the day. You can tell we have artists over here. Detail.
I know the value is important.
Okay. And then we'll have you guys, Mindy, if you guys get yours up somewhere over here, or wherever you want. So we are going to start with this amazing group back here. Sound good? And they are going to model for us how to introduce this. So this is how it goes. You don't necessarily have to say your name, but I would encourage you throughout the day, like go and get to know each other and just something about them. Especially people you don't know in the room. If you will start here, what the 3 things you have in common, then go here. What is it that you hope to gain? If there's anything you want to really share explicitly with us, because we will keep it in mind as we plan agendas. And we always send it out too for what ideas do you have for the agenda. Then end with this. what you will do is say, well, one of us, what's this? Okay, so you would say, one of us sings Patsy Cline songs, and the rest of us are gonna guess which one of this is true. Get it, right? Okay? So if we guess right, you're gonna sit down, but we'll guess until we actually get the right person. So, any questions about that? Okay, get started right here. The 3 things about you. That's a good comment.
Wow, I'm close. We all three went, or we all, however many number of us, went to a traditional college, or we were traditional students. We went to college right out of high school. We have multiple kids. We actually average 3. And then we've all traveled outside of the United States. Oh, what we wanted to gain. Ideas to share with other staff, friends to call, networking, support, inspiration, and my energy cup used to be people. Maybe that should have been our energy.
I love it. And
Busy
so,
summers.
I'm so glad that you said that because we've been talking to our boss about margarita machine.
Amen.
Do it. I don't know. I just think
Well, I've taken classes and they said 1 3 really spurs the creativity.
I mean, if they want something.
I'm pretty sure they said a drink. I don't think it was
Okay, so one of us.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of us sings Patsy Cline songs.
Okay, who do you think it is? Anyone guess?
Penny.
Okay.
Who are choices?
Okay.
Mary Ellen.
And Kathy.
I'm hiding back here. I'm sorry.
There she is.
I think
Kelly.
Shiloh.
Lori.
Okay, so
Someone sings Patsy Cline
I'm gonna
songs.
say Mary Ellen.
I think it's Lori.
That's me, Kelly. It's that.
My daughter sings, I don't.
Okay.
They're trying to get her to sing for us.
Good. Okay, well, it's happy. Good.
Okay, the next one actually twirls batons with fire.
Oh.
I'm gonna say
That's
I wish that was so. I so wish it was
Penny.
That was. I thought the head jig of the football was on fire once. And the people marching band, it was on fire.
Oh, I love it.
I thought they were go stamping it out.
Unbelievable. That's great. Love it. Okay,
Okay,
one of
the
us.
next person, someone in this group, has actually roped a goat and tied it. Well, they were almost successful at a very big rodeo. Wow. Lauren. Mary. No.
Oh.
Shiloh.
Okay, one of us won the reserve grand champion pig something or other. Anyway, showmanship. We already know.
Very Australian.
No.
Lord. Are you kidding? Lord.
Very
Dogs.
One of us was born in New York, and the other one has a twin.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
yeah. Shiloh, do you have a twin?
But the story is actually that we were fraternal up until my little sister did cheek swabs and found out that we actually had that. So I've only known for 2 years that I'm identical.
That's pretty cool.
Courtesy of Brimsey's son.
Oh, that's awesome. And you're from New York?
I am just from upstate, like just south of Niagara Falls, north of Buffalo, tiny little town. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. Okay, so over here with the,
No, go for it. Okay.
The things we had in common, we're all from small towns. We all like animals, so the type of animals varied. And we all enjoy traveling, things we wanted to gain, how to prioritize everything we have to do, questions answered, who are experts in some areas, technology tidbits, curriculum ideas, how to balance everything, more about Kansans Can, what other districts are doing, and someone to listen and brainstorm with. And then our things that people might not know about us, right?
Okay, so
So we've got Holly, Cindy, Missy, Jana, and Angela. One of us has heart issues.
Holly's names again.
Holly, Angela, Jana, Missy, Cindy.
Missy.
That was thyroid.
Angela. Jana.
Cindy. It's me.
And you.
I do. It's doctor's orders.
So yeah.
The next one of us wrote that they were an introvert when we all kind of discussed it.
Holly.
One has authored, or has been a published author. Actually, some of them. Published author. That's true, but I'm not the one who wrote it.
What have you authored?
I have a children's book out there, and then I have a self-help.
Oh, wow. Missy, what's the name of
I have a couple poetry books and a children's book, and then my thesis is also on there.
Oh.
And I can't read, it's been so long, I don't even know what it is. It was something about curriculum.
It was that important.
Yeah.
That's great.
One of the two of us can sew.
Janet.
I can, but I didn't put it up there.
I wrote that one. And then Janet was a 4-H'er.
Okay, over here. Mindy's great.
Okay. Let's see where I'm starting. Okay, things we had in common. Children, we all like to travel, and we all like fitness to keep track of our stuff. Things we hope to gain out of this: question and answers, networking, assessments, CSAT. We have a rodeo queen. I'll just tell you what all
Oh, yeah, stand up.
I'll just tell you what we
The
all
ones in
have.
the group stand up, so we know who we're.
We have a rodeo queen, we have a TV star, we have a king can, and we have livestock.
That's a rodeo group.
I'm too big for radio back
So we have Mindy from Renwick, right? Ron from Harrington and Sue.
Donald.
Okay.
Harrington.
And Becky from Valley Center.
And Jen from Wellington.
Okay. So that's. What do you guys think?
I think maybe seems like the can.
Oh, God, no. That is so wrong.
I know.
Yes, after 2 margaritas.
Yeah, maybe.
It's me. I'm the-
Oh, and I forgot one.
Okay, so one of us is
It'll
a
just
can
give
can
away.
girl,
Okay.
right? Who's that? Who do you think it is?
Oh, sorry. And that's coming up. Cattle drive. That is, I'm retiring after that.
So what time is it and where?
Yeah, I just.
Okay, so one of us, what's the next one?
TV star.
Yeah, I am. I'm not really a TV star. That's a little bit of a stretch. I was a young newlywed, and we happened to be walking through a mall in Wichita, and these people came up and approached us and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some screen testing for a new Sears promotion?" My wife was like, no. I was like, yeah. So it was one of our very first fights because that little segment took us about 2 hours to do, and she wasn't very happy with me. But fast forward, I'm sitting in my classroom about 8 months later, because I was teaching at the time. Kid comes up to me and goes, Mr. Wilson, I saw you on TV last night. And for a second, I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, was it a Sears commercial? And they're like, I don't really know, but you were on there. Fast forward a little more, they said, did you make money? And they only gave me $10 at the time, which really irritated my wife because it's 2 hours. And then, but fast forward a little later, about 3 or 4 months after it was national. It's when Sears used to only be Kenmore. And then they started selling Whirlpool and Maytag and everything, so they were doing a big promotion. I got a $2,000 check. I'll give you the commercial. Free. This has been like 20 years ago. Yeah. Sears. Great quality, good service. I know, I'm a slow learner, man. Yeah, a lot of makeup.
That is okay. So
Yeah.
so one of us is a rodeo student. Okay, one of us has family in Iran.
I've been married for 27 years to a man from Iran, and so I've never met my mother-in-law. She's passed away. It was just kind of crazy, but he and my 2 daughters are going back in March. Like they're going for the second time. Anyway,
We have not met her husband. We just need to come.
He'll never be the same.
No, you And then Ruby.
Yeah, the last one's me. I showed livestock growing up. I had my animal science degree.
Oh, wow.
Stop.
Thank you, guys. We're going to turn it over to Mike and Steve to talk about Canvas. Did we go on? No. Oh, okay, you're over there.
No, they're really.
Angie.
We've got Audrey, Monty, Teresa, and Carrie, darn, and me, Angie.
Okay.
We are Kansas City Chiefs. Good name. We've all coached. And then we all had a
So we similar things to what everybody else has said, but few question and answers. Kind of we talked about really like knowing other people are the same boat. That kind of idea. LCP, so Holly talked about that. So some of us do that. And I guess all this new stuff. HESA, exploring redesign. What does that really mean? We're talking statewide, and then maybe even a book study. Not something that was all right, so we have. Oh my gosh, I gotta remember what this is. One of us has been to Dairy Queen University. One of us writes the church bulletin. One of us ran for student class president at K-State. One of us was a limo queen, which has to do with cows as well. And man, I better remember. Oh, one of us lost our house. Okay, so let's go with the tornado. Nope. Yeah. I think it did. I can't even remember the drawing was. It's you. Yeah.
When was that?
It's been about 12, 13 years ago, outside of Pratt. But it was 5 years before the Greensboro.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, because we live on a farm, Nick.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. One of us has been to Dairy Queen University. Yes.
Junior year of high school, I missed 2 weeks of school to go to DQ. And it's not just about her. I was gonna say.
DQ.
Yeah. Oh, that's, that is. Okay, one of us, is it, I'll turn it on.
One of us writes the church bulletin for our church.
Ooh, man. So it's just between those three.
Yes.
Did they already guess?
Yeah. For about 20 years I've done it.
Really?
Every week. Except for 2. I missed it 2. My dad died, I missed that week. And there was one week, there was a snowstorm coming and I knew there was no way we were gonna have church and I just decided.
You gambled it?
Yep, I did. I took the gamble, so 2 times.
But so the church actually canceled that week.
Yes, it was. It ended up, I knew. Yeah, I did. It paid off.
All right, one of us.
We just, I used to show cattle too, and when I was in Kansas limousine queen, but I can't draw a cow, so I had better chance.
Yes, that's right.
And then on to tell your friends.
Yeah, I think it was my junior year at K-State. I ran a write-in ballot candidate campaign for Kansas State University student body president. And our whole campaign strategy, we did it at the last minute, and it was somewhat serious, but it was kind of for fun too. But the whole strategy was we were going to do all of our stump speeches at the sorority houses. So I went to all the sorority houses at K-State and did about a 10 or 15 minute stump speech. Had a lot of fun, and yeah, enjoyed that. So I got about 300 write-in ballot candidates.
That's awesome.
Let's take really just a quick 5 minutes. So refill your coffee. We do have baskets back here and over here. So I didn't know that. We got to go back there. And in 5 minutes, we'll get started with the data piece.
I mean, you popped up there and I'm like,
Hey, Tamara.
no.
Tamara, the link did not, like all my links are working, but, hold on. How do you pull the link up? It's not the same. Like mine, I just click and the link, so, okay, but that's clear down. Is that the link?
No. Oh, I know I'm there.
What happened? What happened?
Sorry, I zoomed it out so they could see that.
Okay.
There you go. That work? Thank you for doing that. Sorry, it's I think
Yeah, basically. I do test for years. Out of that, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah. We live in well, since 99. So city's really back there. Yeah, no doubt. Right. Because I was over southeast of Saline for 6 months.
Well, I think actually that's where I think that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I stole that. I told somebody, I said, the thing that I learned from my guy that I took it when I was principal was I just was because I was going to get that about you because it was like, man,
Yeah,
that's trash.
it is.
We're shocking then we are filling. So I always appreciate that. And the Wildcat too.
That's right. I know it, Charlie. Okay.
Good seeing you.
Take care.
Do you want him to have it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Okay, so does your, do you need a clicker? Well, see, we can't put a clicker in there. So I'll just do this. Are you okay with that? I don't.
Is there a keyboard? I can bring my clicker.
I'm gonna be honest, I think. Okay. Yeah, it does, but I don't think we can put a clicker in because we're recording this. And all of these are already full.
They're all full.
Mhm.
You may just have to sit there and
I will, if you're okay with
my
that.
clicker.
I'll be the clicker girl.
I don't have any more. Otherwise, I would use I know, that's what it's like you.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, yeah, we need that. I'm just trying to think. We don't really need. I'm thinking. Holly, we really don't need the view out here. When it's recording right now, it's recording this, correct? So we don't need the view out there. I'm gonna unplug it. No, it is. I'm just saying, I think so. But I'm just gonna take off this because I don't think anyone's on anyway. Are you okay with that? Or will it mess it up? Cleanse it.
What's the voting just to have it in the back?
Well, he was gonna just click on it. That's why I was
So, give me the weekend.
Did you get individual data?
Yes, I do.
Did you need one?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I know. They're pretty shy.
What about you?
That was that's
Oh, right there, right there. No, I know better stories. All I have to say is, enough said. Until he leaves, good excuse.
Okay.
I'm glad
I want to share, Mike and Steve are going to share just some information that they've been sharing with superintendents, and they've also been going out to many different buildings and sharing some of this information. And it can be customized for your building if you want, and it's free. All you have to do is pay money. So it's not like I'm not paying consulting fees. There's several gaps that we're starting to see. Is that the superintendents and the curriculum leaders know, and maybe some principals really know about this data, but the gap seems to be the teachers understanding how the data is really connected with the vision. And so we're going to have some conversations about, how are we getting it to the people on the ground floor, people doing the work in the classroom with the kids, and making sure that the message is shared in a way that it's not about AYP and increasing a number. So, Monty, I just have to tell you, it brought tears to my eyes when I heard about your charter school and how the data was not good. And what they did is they had every student from that group write a letter about their life and had the board members read it, what they were doing right now. That is about taking it to the student level. So another thing I want to make sure you're aware of is, yes, we can come out and share this and the connection with the data. SDAC's point is, this is the best data we have ever had, ever. But we're not going to turn it into AYP data, and we're not going to play that game. We are going to, if we only use this number alone, we're doing a disservice to our kids. If we dig down deep into seeing what each child is doing and how we're best supporting them with the community, with parents for their future, we can make amazing strides, and we want to help you on that journey. Another piece on this sheet, and I do want you to take this, is I had several principals ask me, can you guys just help us dig into the National Student Clearinghouse data, because it's like, how thick is it? So yes, we can. Jody Grover and other personnel from here can go sit down specifically and help you dig down, so it can become student focused. So I wanted you guys to be aware of that. And here is, I'll put it over here for you to grab if that is of interest. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, so Mike and I talked. This is a weird group to talk to. This is a weird group. That's a whole nother issue, Ron. Because you guys, most of, if not all of you, could be standing up here doing this. Okay, so this is kind of, we've been talking to the superintendents on a monthly basis. And close your ears for just a second. Did you know that superintendents are the black hole of information? Once it goes in, it never comes out.
But not Ron.
No.
Not wrong.
Actually, that's why I brought my elementary principal. So
Yeah.
she could
Okay. So you understand. Okay. In the spring, we said we will be glad to come out and do a presentation for your staff opening the school. And we did several of those. Anywhere from 1 hour to 6 hours, we did. So you're going to get the Reader's Digest version, but I need a lot of input from you because you probably know as much or more about it than Mike and I do. Okay. So with that in mind, we're gonna short circuit some of this. We try to connect PISA with the Kansas Scan vision. That's what we want to do. We were starting to see some districts that it was all about what are the hoops we have to jump through to get accredited, period. And that's not the point. So one of the things I did, I asked, well, this is really the Reader's Digest version. With teachers, we talk about the town hall meetings and what they came up with and the data analysis, that kind of stuff, so they understand how we came up with the Kansas Can vision. I use this slide, and this is the only one I put in on the economic aspects of this, because, back up one, Tamara. This is what we need in the workforce. We need 71% of our workforce to have a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, industry certification, military training. Okay, those are job requirements. That's what you got to have to apply for those jobs. We have about another 8% that don't require post-secondary training, but they're high wage. Somebody always says, yes, but you don't have to do one of those to be successful. No, you don't. But the odds are a lot better if you do. And in fact, Randy told the story about the refinery in McPherson. The manager said, quit telling people there are high-wage, low-skilled jobs. Quit telling them that. And I said, well, but there are. And he said, yeah, but we get 400 applicants, 300 applicants for those jobs. That's not a great career plan, okay? So this is what we currently have approximately in Kansas. We have high skill is about 45% of our workers, okay? Have some post-secondary training that fits that need. 55% don't. That means over half of our workforce is chasing 8% of the jobs that are high wage. Now, one of the things we always tell people, we've had an argument over the last 6 years, 5 years about raising taxes. What we really need to raise is more taxpayers. We need more kids with high skills working jobs that they pay income tax, and quit instead of using income tax, okay? Does that make sense to you? So with that in mind, I asked Brad, I said, I need a statement that's official that links KISA to Kansas Can. And we went back and forth, had a nice discussion about it. And this is what Brad said. KISA is the State Board of Education approved framework for educational systems to reach the Kansas Can vision. Does that make sense to you? The Kansas Can vision is the goal, the success of each child. Okay, that's the goal. KISA is a framework that gets you accredited, but should get you to the Kansas Can vision. Now, and I don't know how you're doing it in your district, but you've got some kind of team that's leading KISA. What we've been talking to superintendents about is let them cross the T's, dot the I's of KISA. Focus your teachers on helping kids be successful, period. I asked Brad, point blank, will any school in Kansas not be accredited? What was his answer? No. Now, if need be, they'll put you on double secret probation and somebody's going to come in and tell you what to do. But everyone's going to be accredited. If you're working on improving that success data, you will get accredited. Play some of the game. That's part of it. That's a constitutional obligation.
I heard you say that last year when I was coming to the KISA conversations that Brad said that. And then probably a lot of us in this room continue to go to those KISA meetings. And then you go to the curriculum director meeting at the state level, and you hear a completely different story because now there's the committee that going to look at all this.
The ARC.
It's not your visitation team anymore. It's the committee that looks at it, and they really kind of a committee of people as opposed to a Brad Moonshine making that decision or a Randy Watson making that decision. And I've had those conversations with Randy too, and he's like, right?
Yeah, because it's an accreditation review committee, right?
Do the stuff, but don't focus on accreditation.
And I agree. You know that I completely
absolutely.
I'm just saying that sounds good, but there is a little bit of a fear that that's not really what's going to happen when you get to the state level.
Well, but
it's what the big dogs think should happen.
If you're working on it, if they say you got to have this in by September 15th, you got to turn it in. Right. Okay, do it, but don't fret over it. The real issue is helping kids get better, be more successful. So I agree with you totally. But we were seeing schools that the only thing they cared about was crossing T's, dotting I's around KISA. That's not the point. Okay, so I don't know how much you know about this data. If you have questions, how many of you have studied this data? This is the state data, by the way. How many of you have actually dug in to really try to understand? Okay, so let's have a little discussion about it. First of all, it starts with 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's 5 years. The reason they did a 5-year average, small schools, you've got to average over time. You know, some of you are from schools that 2 or 3 kids could be 10% of your class. You know, so we get a 5-year average. The graduation rate, those are the kids that are accounted for as freshmen and graduate from high school. We've been collecting that data forever. Okay, graduation rate. State average is 85%. Okay, over time. And it doesn't look like it is salmon colored on there. Those are the percentage of kids who are successful the first year and a half, 2 years after high school in one of either 4-year degree, 2-year degree, they have an industry certification. Okay? But it's only of the graduates. The blue one then, the dark blue, starts with the freshman cohort. It takes your kids that did not graduate in 4 years into consideration. That can't be accounted for. Okay? Let me pause. Take a second, tell the people at your table, make sure that you understand that. Tell each other what you heard, what you believe that is, so if there's misunderstanding, we can all clear it up. Go ahead, take a second.
This is freshman and that's
I think everyone has their individual data and state data. I put it on the table. I said, I think everyone has their individual data. And
that's why it's the same as you 100%.
Okay, let me bring it back together. Comments, questions, something you're not clear on? Like I said, this is a weird group because many of you have been explaining this to people in the community, and some of you, it's the first time you've really had a discussion. So, let me tell you, the first school we did with this was Gossel. And we went out and did the opening. Mike went with me, and we talked about it ahead of time. We wanted to see what the response of teachers was. Because we had no clue, are they going to be angry? Are they just going to be passive and say this too shall pass? Will they see it as an opportunity? We had no clue. And when we handed out their school data, their individual data, we were in the auditorium at Gossel, and it's got great acoustics. It was so quiet, it was creepy. And it was like somebody breathe or something, make some kind of noise. But the response we've got from all the districts we've been, overwhelmingly positive from teachers. I don't know how many we've had comment, finally we're focused on the right thing. So that was one of the side effects. We didn't know what it was going to be, but it was really good. So questions about interpreting this data? Yeah, go ahead.
Now there's another one that has a line graph. and it shows the percentage of kids who enroll in college
Oh.
and then drop out.
Yeah.
From national students.
Is that
That,
later
that,
on? How
we
is
don't-
this one different?
we don't have access to that data at SF.
Okay.
We do to this, that's why we use this one predominantly. Jody Grover works at Cheney part-time, here part-time, okay? She understands all that. We can't get in and look at it, nor can we give you samples of it.
So if you dig deeper than this, they're only going 2 years out, right?
Yes,
Correct.
That is, if you dig deeper, that's when kids drop out of college.
yeah, and we're gonna talk about that in a
And
minute.
so this doesn't show your staff. What I saw with our district was, are we preparing them and making them realize a 4-year degree, or can you handle a 4-year degree? Or do you need a 2-year degree?
Yeah.
And have realistic expectations, and that's the individual plan of study. I mean, because it shows kids dropping out, they have a huge college loan, and they're taking over in the workforce for low, low wages. And it's increasing when you dig deeper in your, and that is so important for teachers to see
Yes.
that.
And
And they
you
need to
need
realize
to
it's
show
hard.
them your data on that,
Yeah.
not pretend data, your data.
So this, I think, is a little deceiving to me when you dig deeper.
Well, you've got to start though with the bigger picture for people to understand what we're doing, okay? And we're going to talk about some of that and how that happens in a minute. But no, we don't have that line graph, but you do have it in your data. This workshop that Tamara pointed out is actually going to dig into that stuff.
And that is that what I got.
Go ahead, Angie.
Ours, McPherson's data looks different than your data. Our 2 years out is really good, our assessment is really good. So it's getting the kids there.
Yeah.
So everybody's data is gonna look different, and that's not gonna be across the board, second years.
And part of the discussion that we've had, I had a superintendent call and say, hey, have you seen any really good needs assessments? And I said, how about if I come out and talk to you and your administrators about it? Because all of your districts in a lot of ways look alike, but in other ways they're completely different. And I don't care if they're right next door to you with exactly the same number of kids. A needs assessment for Cans and Scans says, what does our data tell us and what do we need to do? That's the needs assessment. So you've got to dig in individually to your data to determine those needs. We're going to give you some examples of how you might do that. Go ahead.
A good example of that is in the Smoky Valley School District, on the building report card, the public data that gets pushed out, we have an 84% graduation rate. Well, that's because our charter school, our virtual charter school data is pushed into that. Our high school alone has about a 94% graduation rate. So my point in that I'm saying is, when I presented to our board about a month ago, I had to go in and dig out that data in order to present what I consider to be a fair and equitable picture of what's really going on in our district.
Yeah.
That's one frustration I've got on that side of it. For the state side, is they push that out as our district, and there's no way to show that difference on that public report.
I think if you look,
there is not. I've checked.
Well,
I can tell you.
I had this discussion with Brad last week that you have access to more data than I do. When I go in and print this report, I get your district data. And I sat down with Max Heinrichs. He said, Steve, I've got different data than that. Well, I talked to Brad, we Zoom, and you can get district data or your high school data. For example, in Renwick, they've got 2 high schools. I only see the district numbers. I can't see the 2 high schools. In all of your districts, all we can see is the district number. There's a high school number and a district, and Max had the same situation.
That's you're working off of this KSDE.
Right.
Report card.
Yes.
That does not allow you to differentiate at the building level on post-secondary success.
You've got to go in.
Authentications.
Yes.
Nobody has access to that except for.
But you can download it.
You can.
But what he's saying
point
is the public, when they go to the computer, the public sees that.
Yeah.
And that's not an accurate
Yeah,
It's not an accurate,
It's accurate. I mean, we own it. We take
Awesome.
ownership of the data. We own it. We choose to have a charter school and operate the way.
It just totally doesn't clear the picture up.
It's not equitable.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I am shocked that we haven't seen a newspaper run a list of
I
schools
can't.
comparing that data
I'm
yet.
so thankful.
I bet I lost the bet.
There's
I thought
really-
the Topeka Capital Journal would do it July 2.
I don't think KSB will allow it because they do not want, that's not the purpose, and they do not, originally they were gonna do a number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said that's the same as AYP. So they don't want to, but we'll see how long that lasts, but they don't want to compare because it's supposed to be individual, you know, it's supposed to be, but it's not the purpose to be another.
They can't stop the
But we'll
newspaper
see,
though.
we'll see.
They can't stop the newspaper from looking up the regional schools and saying what's their data. I'm shocked that some newspaper hasn't done it
Yeah.
already. Oh, the only thing is, I don't think that they understand it yet either. I think that's the problem. Other comments about this data though, understanding it. How many of you have done this with your teachers, talked about this?
This question has come up. Where did they get that system? That question came up to me. I can explain the system. Where did it originate? Where did we pick success averages and effective averages? What's the research on that part? Because that question was asked to me and I was like, well, that's a darn good one.
Number one, the National Student Clearinghouse data was started to do what? Anyone know? Track student attendance in post-secondary for student loans. That's why it was started. Because if the kid's not in school anymore, we don't want to loan them more money. That's why it was started, okay? They started out with 4-year schools and community colleges, okay? So that's where that data comes from. The industry certifications comes from a report that CTE people do called the KPAC.
And the only ones that we can count are ones that qualify for Senate Bill 155 funding. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, they have to be high-need industry areas.
Any certification has to be in an area in Senate Bill 155 funding for us to count as a
Yeah,
certification. Yes.
but if you put it on your KPAC, they'll wade through that. Now, we're in discussions with them about, for example, I'll give you a good one. Today in Hutchinson, Kansas, there are 50-some kids that are electrician apprentices. They started at, I think it's $15 or $16 an hour. They get benefits, they work full-time, and they go to class 1 night a week, and in 5 years, they'll be a journeyman electrician. They're gonna make good money, and if they stick, they can make a good living. They are successful. We're talking to KSD about, okay, how do we count those kids? And now they're open to it, it's just that there hasn't been a mechanism before to count it. Okay? They're open to all this. So, you know, we always tell people, whatever your data is, it is. That's what it is. But it's the worst now it's ever gonna be. Because as you find, when I was talking to Max, he had 4 kids go to Park University. You know, anyone know where Park University is? Kansas City, Kansas. He had 4 kids there. None of them were counted as being, they don't turn their data in, okay? He talked to them. They're gonna start turning their data in, you know? So those kinds of things, it's only gonna get better. And what they told us on your key, so you know you're keeping notes on your KESA stuff. Write down, we've got 4 kids that they're going to Park University that didn't show up in the data. We accounted for them. So it's not a gotcha game.
Yeah.
That is the one thing. It is not a gotcha game.
So Monty, your statement about we own it, I mean, that's just amazing leadership. We own this data and we're going to use it effectively to meet the needs of each kid. And however that looks within that district is probably going to be customized. But this process can kind of help get down to like, how do you go about doing that so it makes sense where it fits into the big picture.
And the important reason to show this to teachers is so at the end they're not just told to do something and not understand it. You got to help them understand how this transpires.
Uh-oh.
Okay, now the research then on the 71% of jobs is from Georgetown University. They've got the Center on Education and the Economy or workforce, and they do a big report every year. That's where that data came from. When we talk to teachers, we show them the website, and if they want to go find that report, they can. Okay. So then we ended up with these 5 goals from the state. And we talked to teachers about how that whole process worked and how the state board focused on these. The post-secondary success is in red because it's the cans and can vision. It's the success piece. By the way, why 2 years out? Because the research says our influence over kids lasts about 18 months to 2 years. You are exactly right. We're going to look at some numbers. to truly be successful, those four-year college kids gotta finish, and they've gotta get a degree that they can get a job. You know, I saw the other day, a university offers a bachelor's degree in puppetry. How would you like to have your kid graduate with $80,000 in debt with a degree in puppetry? Man, you want to talk about being in a world of hurt. Okay, so I want to give you a scenario to show you what the numbers look like. If you start with 100 kids in 9th grade, okay, and Tamara, and 100% graduate, go ahead, 90% enroll in a 10 post-secondary the fall after their senior year. Okay, you with me? Okay, and 90% return for the second year, okay, and 90% graduate from that program, be it 2-year, 4-year, whatever it is, okay? Let's look at the numbers. 90, 81, 73. So the effective rate of this, give me one more, is 81%, okay? But look at those numbers, 100% graduation rate. We have one district that showed 100% graduation rate, and that's that one. Okay, so nobody else in this room had 100%. Okay, and 90% attending fall after their senior year. That's an unbelievably high number, isn't it? 90%. 90% return for the second year. That's a really high number. And 90% go on and graduate. Okay, if you look, the effective rate is 81%. Now that's really good, but think of how many kids have to successfully maneuver that to get to the 81%. Okay, next scenario. Look what happens if just one of those areas is deficient. This one, I put 75% graduate from high school. The lowest, I saw one graduation rate in the 60% range. But when you factor that in, what are the chances of hitting 71%? They're out the window. Okay, so at your table, if this was your data, what are the questions or what are the things you're going to look at in your district? What are the questions you have about this? What do you want to know in order to determine your needs? Talk at your table about this. Really low graduation rate. Hey, and if you want these slides, Tamara will email it out to you. If you want a copy of this PowerPoint, you can have it.
So that would be
Oh, yeah, it's almost backwards, but that's kind of
Okay, what are you talking about? What are the questions you want to answer? What's the data you want to see? What's your conversation? What are you guys talking about?
We were just talking about calculation of graduation rate. We did a different question.
What did you guys talk about, Kelly?
We talked about kindergarten readiness, that to make sure that they're successful as soon as they start school. If you want them to be successful at graduating,
Yeah.
it starts at preschool.
Get off to a good start. You know, we always talk about those kids that drop out. They don't start thinking about dropping out in 9th grade. It's not a high school problem. It starts way before that. Can they read? You know, I've learned more about reading over the last 6 months than I ever wanted to know. And Robbie Ahlstrom is training me that the whole idea of reading silently fluently. that kids that cannot read silently, fluently are in a world of hurt. Well, that happened a long time before ninth grade, doesn't it? So how about engagement? What do you figure the engagement rates are for kids that drop out? Typically low. Now, there can be other reasons, but typically low. Okay, next scenario. This is a big one, Monty. This is probably one for your charter school, okay? And again, I intentionally picked a low rate, 75%. I said, yeah, you're graduating 90%, but only 75% are going on to post-secondary. By the way, that's fairly normal number, 75% going on to post-secondary. You can see what it does to your overall data when any one of these is deficient. But if your kids aren't going on to post-secondary, what are the questions you need to ask? What's the data you want? What's the conversation you need to have about this? And again, this is needs assessment stuff. Go ahead at your table, talk about what would that be? I should say too, but email them this. Yes.
Hey, Holly. It's linked on our agenda, right? So it'll just stay there. Perfect.
Well, I was gonna share some.
Perfect. Well, honey? I can come over there. I'm being lazy.
So tell me what you're talking about. If your kids aren't going on to post-secondary. This is what your table talking about.
You mean the
Or you guys can just ignore it.
effective rate?
What are you used to that?
Yeah, it needs to be changed. Effective rate. Yeah. It's this one we're talking about. So he needs to change his success.
Now, I hear that a lot. I want to see the
That's a
data.
good point. No, that's great.
Family farms, or the family farm is going away, right? The farms are getting bigger, so there's fewer family farms. The people at Colby told me they have very few kids at Colby High School that actually live on a working farm. Very few kids. Because out there, the acreage that one farmer can farm now is so huge. That's one of those questions. Is that a fact? Or is it something we believe that may not be true? I don't know. And I think it depends on your area. What else did you talk about? What did you guys talk about?
It'd be interesting to have it track kids in a 2-year period, especially if it didn't succeed. And what went wrong, what can be done better,
And you're going to have to talk to some kids, aren't you? Why did this happen? Any other comments about kids not going to post-secondary?
Well, I can tell you, one of the things when I rolled this out initially when I rolled out to our ministers and then when they rolled it out in their buildings, is the very first thing we did is talk about what makes kids successful 2 years out, and they made lists.
Yeah.
And yeah, academics was on there a couple of times and rigor, but it was all that other stuff, grit, perseverance.
Yep.
And then we talked about how does that impact what we do, because our work doesn't lie in academics right now. Our work lies in other stuff beyond that that makes kids successful.
Yeah.
So that was the very first piece I did before we ever looked at any of this, because that's the focus. That's what we gotta stay focused on. Yes, they need to be academically ready, but it's the fact that they can't manage a checkbook and they can't pay their rent and they.
Yeah.
At least
The soft
that's why
skills, what we
kids
call
have-
soft skills. Now, and if you've ever heard Randy present, he talks about in the first 20 town hall meetings, 75% of what they reported was non-academic. Okay, when they did the business community, 80% was non-academic. So it leads, you've got to start having these conversations with teachers so they understand why. Okay, how about individual plans of study?
That's what we talked about was the ITS. Helping kids figure out their interests.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because they're straight, making sure that you're doing everything you can, so when they leave, they're headed into the direction that they feel like they're gonna be successful, or they're interested in.
Like what
Yes. Let them research and learn.
I'll tell you a conversation we had at one of the schools we were at. They were saying, you know, we talk to our kids a lot about this stuff. They can't possibly know what they're good at and what they like to do by reading about careers in a book. You've got to do something. So a kid says, I like to do that. And one of the schools, the whole middle school said, that really ought to be our role as lots of experiences for kids, you know, so they start to identify, what am I good at? What do I like to do? And then what are careers that are aligned with that? But,
right, and we've got great technology now. So we were just talking about this in elementary principal about big projects around projects around kids learning. And my fourth grade teachers want to go visit every state. Absolutely. But we can do that virtually. They can actually do a field trip to every single state virtually. And
absolutely.
They would actually know about the states. They would, you know, as opposed to let's memorize the states and the capitals and where they are. And
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We're living in a world we can do these things.
Now, and I know, did Renwick take your teachers to Wichita Area Technical College? Kingman did also. If you're, it is worth a staff development day, you did too. Take your staff to Wichita Area Technical College. Now, the reason we say them is it's close enough to drive there. It's a technical college. They are really focused. They have 95 programs. You know, we didn't know. We're pretty in tune to it. We didn't understand all those things. Non-destructive testing. How many of you knew that that was a program? Yeah. One, okay. I want to destroy things. Yeah. That's a whole other story. Take that trip. It's wonderful. Kingman actually went to all three campuses and ended up at the North Webb Road campus. They've got a beautiful auditorium. You can have lunch brought in there and stuff. They really do work with you. It's an eye-opener for your staff to see what the options are.
When is good for this again?
So the teachers start to understand what's out there for their kids. So when you're working on the individual plans of study, if you don't know those careers exist, it's really hard to know what to talk to your kids about. And our teachers are all well-versed in four-year colleges. All of us are. We've all been there.
So make sure you have November 7th and 8th on your calendar for kids.
Absolutely.
And for teachers, because it's the Career Expo here. It doesn't cost you but transportation. But it's interesting, like some of the careers that are available. It was an eye-opener to me. And just looking back, you could tell the teachers who are taking individual plans of study seriously, because the kids were going up and asking questions, and I mean, it was just really intentional. And the teachers were engaged as much as the kids. So it's an amazing opportunity for students. So make sure you.
We could also tell the difference, the schools where one person was responsible for individual plans of study versus everyone was responsible. It was obvious. So as you do that. Okay, Tamara.
This is Kansas, right?
Back up one. Okay, then the other scenarios, they're not returning for the second year, and you talked about that. Even if they do, they're not going on and completing that 4 years.
Cindy, it was interesting because I was at a district, I stayed for a team meeting, and I don't know, I think it came from your district, that you guys were considering going out into the community, maybe I'm wrong about this, but asking community members to fund scholarships for 2 years instead of just 1 year, because that is a factor. You know, most community scholarships are just 1
Those
year.
little ones, you know, they're like $500 for the first year. And saying to go to them and say, you either have to do 250 for 2 years, but you've got to fund it for 2 years. We're not going to do 1 year scholarships anymore. So the idea is to get some money the second year or upgrade the scholarship.
We started hearing people say, we talked to kids, they couldn't afford the second year. They got 3 or 4 scholarships the first year, but nothing the second. So, but again, you've got to determine what's the need in your community.
And those are the things we'll share with each other. Like, what are we doing, boots on the ground, with our communities, parents, students, teachers, to make a difference for graduation rate, getting them into the post-secondary institution, retaining, making sure that they're going the second year. So we'll continue to discuss
the other
this.
thing about this is an adaptive challenge. We don't have all the answers. It's not a technical problem. You're going to make some mistakes. It's okay. Correct them and move on. But you're going to have to also try some stuff that you've never done. We have never been asked to help every child be successful. We actually were asked, they didn't use these terms, to sort and classify the kids to see who should go to college and who shouldn't. Tell me you were going to say something.
Well, I just think attendance is so huge from kindergarten or preschool
Yep.
on, because if we just focused and monitored attendance and had strategies for those kids not coming to school every day, which I did in another district, and we had a plan, certain teachers worked with that kid and found out why, and we increased attendance. That's that perseverance and getting up every day, going to work.
Yeah.
Getting up, I mean, if we just focus just on getting every kid there every day and motivating them, and they have a teacher they know cares about them, they see them in the hall, they're glad to see them. It's not rocket science, it's how you could improve attendance. It's all about them wanting, they're not motivated to come to school, they just have to motivate them. But just attendance alone could increase graduation rate and that perseverance for college.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
I think we're in a generation where these kids don't want to work too hard, they just quit. You know, and we need to change that sometimes.
And Kelly, if you use Power School, maybe you all know about it, but just in case you don't, they have a dashboard add-on feature now that you can add risk factors, and it automatically pulls and puts up the risk factors so you can see if you have somebody that is high in attendance and low grades, and another thing, I can't remember what it was, and their flag, it's an automatic dashboard thing, and it shows you who's at risk. And you can do it just on attendance, you can do it just on grades, and so it'll identify you for like this right there, and you can use those as a kind of a platform of who to target. And it's automatically. It's in Power School under the dashboard.
Awesome.
That's a great tip.
And it's a great purchase because I'm telling you, like, you don't, when you're caught up in the day, you know you might have a kid missing, but you don't know all of a sudden they're at risk, and it has all the different things. And I'm looking at whether or not we can add another column to it because it's K-5, we just did a grading, we don't want the grading pulled in, we just want to kind of.
If you figure that out, because I said no, I would not work on elementary because of that, and middle school, high school for sure.
Yeah, we have it in all.
We have patterns, we got it for everybody, we have.
Yeah, because I want to add on like low SES factor, and then you could like really target, and it's like, and it's
awesome.
Categories like super high risk, like in moderate, and it's so the data collection.
Then you can prevent.
Right, that's what I mean, like you pull all that stuff, but now it's just right there for you. That's great.
And
I
that
love it.
truly is the needs of your district. That is a true needs assessment. What do your kids need to be
Love it.
successful?
Because if you have a kindergarten missing 30 days of school, you got a problem.
In fact, Randy was saying they're working on a report from KSTE that they're looking at the data, and they said there seems to be a magic number in elementary when a kid misses so many days, their chances of success plummet.
That's
They're
in
working
that Georgetown report.
Yeah.
If you go to the Georgetown report, it tells you the numbers of like each
First
grade.
grade is, you can predict if that child's going to
Yeah.
succeed or not.
Yeah, and one of the things we've had people ask, elementary teachers say, well, what does this have to do with us? Yeah, so that you've got to work on that. Are all of you familiar with this sheet?
That's what you're talking about, Kelly.
Yes.
Okay. This is the state data. You have this for every graduating class in your individual data. We can't access that. But it's very simple. The green is new to college. They started college. You'll notice there's a little red line here that's graduated. Those are the kids that Hutch High gets several of these every year. Kid graduates from Hutch Community College on Saturday, and on Sunday they graduate from Hutch High. Or it's the kid with an industry certification that's been added in. The number, the purple number up at the top are just kids not in the system.
Can you tell them the two places where they can access that, just in case somebody doesn't?
It's in your, well, go ahead and tell them.
Amos, and then is this one? That's where I go, but is it somewhere, is it in the building, is it another place? Is it in that data management place at KSDE?
It could be, we don't have access.
I don't even know where it is. Jody would.
Right?
Do you know where it is?
Which I think that's going away.
Jody Grover knows how to do all that. We don't, we can't play with it. We don't know. We
She's
can't
in
get
the
into
district.
it because it's all private. The big key on this one, and somebody already mentioned it, if they go 2 years and then they're part of that yellow, no longer enrolled and not graduated, man. I saw the other day, you've all seen the data. The average student loan debt in America is what? 28,000. Okay, but this was clarified. I read this the other day. Per borrower, not graduate, per borrower. That means a kid that goes to Hutch Community College and borrows $2,000, their data's in that average. That means somebody, has got $50-some thousand in debt because it's by borrower, not per graduate. So kids that, if they borrow $10, they're put into that data. Okay, so be aware of that. Those kids in the yellow, if they've gone to KU at $20,000 a year and they go 3 years and drop out without work skills, they got $60,000 in debt and they're chasing 8 or 9% of the high wage jobs.
And their monthly payment starts
when they're done.
That they drop out.
Yeah.
Pay back their money.
And it is crushing.
I can tell you what the average student loan for our SBAC teachers are. Now that narrows it down to the teaching field. We work with a group, national group, Innovative Student Loan Services. That's a loan forgiveness program. They have the averages on those that have called in and went through the program, and it averages $76,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And average payment is $720 a month.
I'm paying 3 college loans, 3 kids, and they have a portion of it themselves.
Yeah.
So they're paying, and my husband and I are paying, and it's amazing. And then they think of cutting more support. But, and the oldest one isn't in his area of his degree, so he's not getting paid what he should, but he's paying back his loan and living. So
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you another path to college in a little bit, but okay, pull up your data. Pull out your data sheet. Did everybody get a copy of yours?
That's student loan forgiveness program. For 10 years and I'm strong.
Okay.
That's where.
Looking at your data, what do you need to focus on to help kids be more successful? Is it graduation rate? Is it post-secondary attendance? Is it return to second year? Now, you've got one sheet of your data. It's not a complete picture, is it? You've got to go back. First question that we worked with as superintendents. Which of these areas is the biggest problem for you?
And this right here is going to give you that better information to answer those questions.
Yeah, and so
that's where it matters.
Picture to that previous backup one or two to this, then you start going, okay, who are those kids? Who are the specifics about this that we're not succeeding with? So you work from big picture down. Okay, that's why it's really important for your teachers to have the big picture and then start working down through the data. Okay, go ahead, Tamara. So back up one. Tell the people at your table, which of these 3 is your biggest issue? Are they all about the same? When you look at it, what are you thinking about your needs in terms of helping reach the Kansans Can vision? But so if you're inside that range, you'll see that. So all our good stuff. So sometimes I think that I look at it. Sure. It must be on the it's on your data. So the other question that's on this slide is, how do you know? And that's where you say, well, this is why we believe that this is a problem. This is a need. Now, how do you know that? Okay. Next one. Which of these choices most needs attention in your district? The 4-year degree, 2-year degree, military. In the military, we always add it because it's an option. Even though we're not getting the data, we didn't want to just drop it from the conversation. Randy says figure 1%. Industry certifications and apprenticeships. Okay. Let me tell you what I think we're seeing. This is an opinion unburdened by data. Okay. The districts we're talking to are telling us their kids that go to 4-year schools are doing way better than the other choices. Which only makes sense. We spend 13 years preparing our kids all to go to 4-year colleges, right? You need to check that. Are your kids, anyone from Inman here today? When Inman went through their data last year and started looking at it, or the year before when Kevin Case was still there, their 4-year kids really did well. Their low poverty kids, not one kid was hit any of the success criteria. 0. Well, look at your data. You might find the same thing. Are your 4-year kids being really successful? If they're not, why not? Start talking to them. But if they're being successful, how about your 2-year kids? Let me tell you what we hear from districts. That kids go to a community college believing that an Associate of Arts degree gets you a job. The community college call those kids transfer kids. They're really working on a 4-year degree. They're just doing the first 2 years in a community college. If they quit with an Associate of Arts degree that doesn't have any job training in it, they're not much more employable than a high school graduate. Marginally better, marginally. And it's only because the company said, well, they had the grit to stick through 2 years, basically. So you need to look at that. The industry certifications and apprenticeships, and we're working to get that apprenticeship data. There are 125 apprenticeship programs. There are some that are registered, some that are not registered. Those are high-skilled jobs. High-skilled jobs, and they pay well. I don't know if you, did anyone see the Wichita Eagle last week when it asked the question? The headline was, how to make $99,000 a year in Kansas without a college degree. Westar Energy, lineman. 5 years out, $99,000 a year. It's less than a 2-year program. At Pratt Community College is one of them that has it. Our kids don't know about those options. And that's why it's important that we as educators, including teachers, start to understand those options. Okay, then you've got these 7 risk factors. And Cindy, what were the 2 that they said had, they showed statistically didn't have an impact? ELL.
And
percent new teachers. They said statistically didn't matter. Okay? So when you think about looking at your data and you ask those questions, where are we going to focus? What's our need? Which of the 4 R's do you think you're going to need? Let me tell you what we contend. Pick 2. You're going to work on all 4 of them. You can't do this without working on 4, but you've got to select 2.
Just do it.
How can you help individual kids if you don't have a responsive culture? How can you help individual kids if you don't create a relationship with them and know what they're good at it? You with me?
Yeah.
You're going to work on all 4. Pick 2.
For
Okay?
KISA. Yeah.
Next slide. This creates an interesting conversation. So read this. I'm going to read it to you, and then I want you to discuss this at your table. In the past, our goal was for every student to learn well the things we want them to know. That's what we did in the past. Now, our goal is to have every student learn well the things they need to know, do, and be like to be successful in their chosen future. We think we're going from the top one to the bottom one. Talk at your table and see what you think. By the way, this is really a dramatic shift in mindset, isn't it? Talk about it at your table.
Yeah.
I won't talk about it now, but I'm going to bring this slide up and talk about the creating environments. We're still in the bottom. We're still putting it in the calendar where it fits best for the students. It's just, this is so key. Teachers are
You've also had it for 6 years in college. And that's what
great job.
Hey, I know you're still talking about this, but Cameron told me I'm out of time. She said I talked to you.
No, I didn't.
People, work with me.
It's important.
What are you talking about? Does this make sense to you? Is it accurate? And you've got to involve everybody in your district in this conversation.
Not just this. Yes, we're just reading that conversation. It's about
Absolutely.
Yes.
You can't do it without your community. You can't do it without your community. So this is really different stuff, but you got to start having conversations and start doing something. Comments about it.
Where are most superintendents? Are they in Upland or bottom?
Now, you need to understand, our superintendents that come regularly to our superintendent's council, we've been having these kind of conversations for 18 months on a monthly basis. We're getting high engagement, high buy-in on the stuff we talked about today. We have some SUPs that never come to SUPs council, and they never join us virtually, and they're not having the conversations. So
I think the most important thing is then what do you do with the information? I mean, you make sense of it and you have really great dialogue, but then what's the action? And it's not a technical action always. I mean, what's the step forward to make something happen? And that's in this group, what I love so much is we'll have time to share what all of you are doing, because all of you are doing different things at different levels with this information already.
Yeah, you guys are a wealth of knowledge to be sharing with each other. You know what the biggest worry is? They don't know what it's going to look like. None of us know what it's going to look like, and in education, that's scary. It's scary for everybody. Please.
I will tell you I'm going to just put a little seed. We've been having conversations about this with professional learning. So, first of all, as district leaders, how are you designing professional learning? What times? Because it's kind of tradition. Have it right before Thanksgiving break, have it right before school starts, have it right before, and sometimes those are the worst times because their mind is not necessarily on growth, right? And we've been talking about really job embedded and different ways, choice, truly customizing professional learning. Will we get there overnight? No, but it is a goal of SDAX as well.
Yeah, go ahead. And we've got to focus on these 4 areas with all kids. That we're not ignoring the academics. The academics are different. I didn't put this slide in, but we have about 35% of our kids ever get a 4-year degree. Why do we make every kid take a qualified admissions curriculum? We have a bunch of kids that don't need that curriculum. They need something different. And if you look at the graduation requirements, it doesn't say Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. It says three credits in math that include algebraic and geometric concepts. Put a kid in a construction class and see if they do it without geometric concepts. Okay, so we've got to start having those conversations and talk about how do we do that. Go ahead. We visit every month with Randy. The service centers have a meeting, and he talked about these design principles that he believes are going to be guiding principles. Number 1, it's going to be personalized. Okay? That what is a kid good at? What do they like to do, and how can we help them get there? Number 2, project-based. And he actually talked about it, and Gallup has done a ton of research. Long-term projects develop that grit and that stick-to-itiveness, and a lot of the things we want kids to have come as a result of long-term projects. Community-based. How many of you have a really healthy 4-H program in your community? Those kids are doing a lot of stuff. how do we validate the learning and give them credit? Okay? I always tell the story, my son's a manager at Cerner Corporation, and he told me, he said, Dad, whenever I have an opening on my team, I go to HR, and I want every application for every kid that was an Eagle Scout. Said I've never had one that wasn't a great team person. Maybe we ought to be looking at all those badges and saying, how are they getting there? What fits what we're doing? How do we involve that in the conversation?
When we went to the state and the Boy Scout director for the state was there talking, Gallup, I think, is who did the research study that actually showed the number of hiring an Eagle Scout is the number one attribute that HR.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What about the girls?
Well,
pennies, equity,
how
right?
do we get the stuff that Eagle Scouts do and figure out how we use it for boys and girls? You know, if that leads to success, shouldn't we be looking at it? I don't even know what's in it. I have no clue, but we need to be looking at it, don't we? Maybe one of the things this group could do is bring in somebody from, you know, those organizations and talk about how it fits. Have you all seen this? This is, I think, the Gemini schools. We have one Mercury.
As well, yeah.
Couple in Gemini. We love this chart. We thought that this was, it's in the PowerPoint, and I guess this PowerPoint is linked to your agenda.
This is on the agenda and it's linked. So make sure that thing is getting passed around for all new members, and we'll just make sure you have all the folders.
Yeah, study that a little
Thank
bit.
you.
Amber.
Oh.
Okay. The path to college. The traditional path has been you go from high school to a four-year school. Traditional. The emerging path is this. You get an industry certification of some kind, and there's a wide range of those. Then you get what they call stackable credentials. The first one is the kid that gets a CNA. Then they get the next level of nursing. Then they get the next level of nursing. Then they take gen ed courses. They get an associate degree with the gen ed courses, and they're qualified to go to any state four-year school. That's a path to a four-year degree that makes way more sense for a lot of kids rather than straight to a four-year school. Way more sense for a lot of our kids. So actually, Blake Flanders, who's the CEO of the Board of Regents, said, you guys need to pay attention to this. This is the growing trend in higher ed.
Lori just made a comment, we need to educate our parents, because I went
Absolutely.
to KU or whatever, my kid's gonna go there, but a lot of them drop out due to financial.
Yeah.
And this may be a little bit more reasonable
Yes.
economically than doing the 4 years.
Absolutely. And in spite of what a lot of professors think, all kids go to college to get a better job. Okay? Well, figure out what you want to do and look for another path. I'll tell you, Renwick took a busload of kids to Wichita Area Technical, or parents. Inman took parents to Hudge Community College, and they both said the same thing. Holy cow, I didn't know that existed. And all of you were close enough to make that trip. It's a full day, but you're close enough to make that trip. So, okay, I have one more thing for you to do, and I guess we're going to take a break.
Yes.
Okay, before you take your break, walk up to this chart, and I want you to put a dot on here where this last segment, where you fall on this. So did you hate it or love it? Were you challenged or were you not challenged?
And you're talking about what you shared with them.
Yes. And I do this every time I do a presentation when I remember, which is most of the time. And it's really good data for me, because if you were just entertained, I didn't do much, and if you were bored, even worse. If you're in the grind quadrant, it's a whole different issue. For some reason it was really tough. By the way, we have this that you can use with kids on an electronic device. They can rate their entire day, every class, in about 30 seconds. And you can get data by school, by class, by kid that we have available. We think engagement is a huge issue in Kansans Can, reaching the Kansans Can vision. That if they're not engaged, you can be doing a lot of good stuff, but if they're not engaged, they're not getting it, is what we believe. So If you just take a marker, put a dot on there for me. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to mark this, and then why don't we take about a 15-minute break so you have time to go and visit with others in here and learn from each other and network. It's kind of just an informal time to get what you need. If you need it, 11:30, we'll get started back with the meeting.
If anybody needs, I'm going to show you where to access those reports on AMOS. So I'm just going to do that right now. So if you have no clue where those are at, because they don't just jump out at you, I'm just going to kind of navigate there. I also put step-by-step directions into the agenda. Okay?
Awesome.
But go ahead and take a break. And
Make sure you do mark this. This is important information for us.
Oh, I don't know how to do this.
Oh, you need me to.
I need to, yeah, be able to. Actually, I probably need to use my computer because I won't be able to log into AMOS because I don't know what my login is.
Okay, I will see you.
Can I just plug this in for a little bit?
Yeah. Let's try it. Right? No one's, is someone
I just
on?
need my dongle here, like this.
Yep, there's, he's not right there, so just,
I think
yeah.
just right for a second, maybe.
Maybe. What we can do.
Wait, I gotta get mine out.
Okay.
I keep saying that. Yeah, yeah. And so I keep saying that, you know, it has to be like.
Good grief.
Brand new iPads, actually, or not
I've been here 47 years ago.
I don't know, we always just kind of play it by ear.
Yeah, that's what it takes.
And we organize everything.
Perfect, thanks for the
I can't, except for I can't get him to, struggling here to get it to. It doesn't feel like it's. No, last year I did. It's kind of new, kind of not. When I get around, and now I can't remember how to get it to show up on the screen. I used to know. I guess I could.
One of them.
Especially now.
Because our degree. More pay for the
No.
I say, it's just the way it you know, because I asked everybody in the class grew up in
Well, it was really intriguing to look at the teachers. Well, how's it? Good. Good. You like your new job? Yeah.
Thanks so hard. Just want
Spend a year at Science.
For those of you, we have a few more minutes, but I'm going to show you where that data is at. If you just want to watch. I am in the authenticated website. If you do not have access to that, you can get access to it if you are district level. When you go in, let me go back. Hold on. So when you go into your authenticated website, if you don't have access to AMOS, you can manage your account and get it added. So that's where you would go. Otherwise, if you have it already, it's going to be right here. You click on it. And then down here at the bottom, it'll say National Clearinghouse. Right here. And you have the basic report and the post-secondary progress. So this one, if you go here, this is the one that is about 100 and some pages, but it has all of the data for your school. And this is the one that'll contain, let me show you and you'll see as I keep scrolling. This is the one that has this data. Okay?
What's the name of that?
I'm going to go back. Hold on. Okay, so this one is right here, and it is called the basic report, and it's lots and lots and lots of pages. The other one is the post-secondary progress, and this is this report. So again, you go to the KSDE authenticated website. If you don't have the application called AMOS, manage your account, get it added, your SUP will approve it. Then you click on AMOS, and right down here on the lower left-hand side where it says National Student Clearinghouse, these two are your reports that they were discussing today. Okay? Tamara. Tamara.
Yes.
Where did this go in? Is it right there?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Here, goodness gracious. Okay. Are you sure? It has to be. There's no other place. All right, there we go.
Okay. It was online. I didn't even see.
I think it's Kingman. What's his name?
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, now how do I get back to?
Okay. So I'll get it.
I just want to go back to the agenda.
Yeah.
Could it be new share?
Well, okay, here. I know what it is. Cancel. I don't like how it. There you go. Right there.
The page over. Yeah. What's his name? Hi, Max. Okay.
You good?
Uh-huh.
Do we need to move that picture anywhere? Okay. Probably didn't move it to a great spot. There we go. Okay, thanks, Holly.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started in the essence of time. Yes, okay. Let's see if these work. I put a couple up there. Yeah, I did. Ugh.
Here, let me get it.
I
up.
hate this computer.
I do too. We have issues with it every time. There.
With those dates.
Okay, so I need to go get the
Okay. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change a couple of dates. These there are conflicts with our current October and January meeting date. There's KSDE conflict and I think MTSS symposium. So these are proposed. These are just a couple I went to, and I want to make sure if you would look at your calendars and see if a majority of us are available on these two dates. They're a Friday. Just I think I went one Friday later than our typical meeting date. So just see if there's some other major conflict on those dates. If not, we'll reschedule them.
The only thing about the 26th is we did not have the.
Okay, so what's another date in January?
What do we have it on? The 12th is open.
What about January 12th?
Whose birthday? Did they have a birthday? Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that like Martin Luther? That's not Martin. Oh, I have in service on that day.
Patsy flying singing. We have lots of talent in this room. Are you? Oh wait.
Teresa has a conflict.
That's just Martin Luther King Monday, so
I have stuff on Monday. I have in service on I think the Monday. Well, I think okay, that's not gonna work then. Let's see.
Yeah, the 26th, we would just need to have a different space. We don't have a different. Is why the 26th wouldn't work for us.
what about
We could meet somewhere else.
No.
I kind of like the idea of going to a school. Oh, that is the kite. Hey, by the
Yeah.
way, we did
That's
add
true.
the kite if you're a testing coordinator. Yeah, I hope I can. So it was way far away, and then I just had a curriculum director say, "Hey, would you bring the SOSAC?" So I called Lee Jones, and he says, "If you can get people here."
What was
So
the-
we'll try. So they're coming here. There are some there's new information. He said, I just got an email from him today, so let me tell you what it says. But the kite is really for testing coordinators or any information there. Let me read this.
What about January 12th?
What I said is there are a lot of new.
Oh, that's the okay. Never mind.
There are a number of improvements and some added features in the educator portal. We will get information about those as they become available. We'll be showing you how these work. And the kite workshop is truly just to help you learn all of the features. I mean,
and they talked about MVP this morning.
It goes
deep. So it wasn't just kite, they covered some other things. Because our people went yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to go yesterday, but it was so far away, I canceled.
Okay.
So they're doing, they covered.
So it's pretty good.
They covered the scoring issues.
Good.
So there's, even our folks said they picked up 5 or 6 different new things. So
okay.
It's hard that the kite is not just kite, there are some new, even our people were like, there's 5 or 6. Because Jen was like, I picked up one thing, and she's like, I've already gotten.
Will that not be the same? I mean, will they be doing some of that as a PSC? That's what I was thinking. Because it's a different.
I don't know.
I can ask him.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
just
say,
wondering.
is this?
And that was my question.
Yeah, let me know what you want to that.
All right.
Well, we could do the 26th if we wanted to go someplace other than that. We go to Missouri.
Well, the thing is, with 26, there are going to be quite a few people that.
Oh, that's right.
So let's not do 26. What about the? We can do a different day. Are you guys okay with that?
Or the 5th. What about January 5th?
So.
January 5th? January 5th, Tamara?
Yeah, it works for us.
Is that all right? January 5th it is. Done.
Okay, are we doing that?
20th of what? October? Is that not good?
That was not for me.
October 20th, does anybody, are there any other conflicts except for Kathy? Okay,
What about? Oh, it is? Oh, that's what we had it on.
But if most people.
or what about just bump it back to the 19th on a Thursday?
19 work for everyone?
Yeah. No? Yay or nay on the 19th? No?
No.
Okay. How many can make it on the 20th? Okay, 20th. Remember, we'll have it recorded too, so. All right. Go ahead and change it in your calendar so you don't forget. Okay. All right. The next thing on the agenda, Rebecca and I are on the CAC committee, which is the state assessment committee at the state level, and we have we meet about 5 times during the year. So what we try to do, and I'll have Rebecca put her notes in here too. Okay. If you go to this section, there will be some notes. And really, this is just to kind of give you a heads up. You'll probably find out about this stuff. It just might come to you a little bit later. So we try to take pretty good notes between the both of us. I think if you were to go to either of these, you're going to find some great information. I will go ahead and open mine. And typically what we both did was we just took the agenda topics and then pretty much just typed things in. Some of it's very detailed and then other parts of it are fairly generic. Just a few highlights for you. And Rebecca, please jump in. They talked about orientation and enhancements in the KITE portal. This is just some information that's going to become available to test coordinators. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you look over to the right, there's some descriptive information, and I'm sure in Rebecca's document there is as well, about testing. Different reports will come out at different times of the day and such. So that will be available this year, and that's on the dashboard. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what those teams are going to be about, but they're going to start providing us with a lot better information in terms of like how many of your students have completed testing in a day, how many still are in process of testing. So they're going to start giving you better breakouts of the data in a one-page format for you to look at without having to scroll through, which will be really nice. So they are working actively to build that system. So it says KITE website walkthrough, KITE suite, KITE interims and predictive assessments, resources.
Good.
But I will ask how much more is this a weekly that pay us, what are we doing to pay us, or should they? Oh, I actually asked that question. Oh, okay, well, good. I asked that question exactly because I was confused about this too. And he said a lot of people can't come to KSDE, so they are trying to offer these sessions around the state for people to be able to go to. It's either or. You don't have to attend both. So like.
It's like 3 days. Well, 1 day for test coordinators, but they also, and I think I have it down here in a minute, you know how you all have to do your annual test coordinator training? They're going to have it all online this year for new people and refreshers. So you take it and then you'll just sign your name into a Google Doc. So you don't have to go and participate in that live, but just so you're aware and prepared, I'm not a Mac user at all, so everything just.
And this, are you talking about like right here?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Oh well, I'll just okay. I'm doing down arrow. Is that not what I'm supposed to do? Right. I'd be a lot more efficient if this was not a map. There will be some change of roles. They are expiring some in the system. So make sure when you're going in and you're updating your people that you check their roles and make sure that they are assigned to the correct roles. I'm sure there will be a guide in there that you can read the descriptions and what they'll have access to, but just making you aware of that. One new thing that's in there, it's called a claim. So what you'll find, and I had one person the other day, they used to be a teacher at the diocese in Wichita. And for me to get access and move them into my kite, the other district, or if you're the district where you had people leave, you have to deactivate them. Otherwise, another district will not be able to acquire them. If you don't deactivate, what'll happen, let's say like with mine, I went to the person and it shot that diocese, whoever the person is there, an email telling them that you need to deactivate this person. Otherwise, I can't acquire them until they've been deactivated. At the State Department, they said, or at Kite, they said if that person on the other end doesn't ever deactivate them, you can just call them and they will deactivate them for you. So that's a new little thing that's in there that's kind of nice as well in Kite, in the Kite portal. Again, there's some information in here. You can read all of this. There are some changes on the KELPA. They are going back to where students that earn a 4 or 5 are proficient. There were some issues last year as we were transitioning from the different assessments and the scoring. I don't know if you want to.
With the Alpha 21 moving into Alpha last year, some of the students were marked as proficient if they were in the 3 range, and they let it go because they would rather have erred
They don't want to do
on the
harm.
side of leniency than erred on the side of whatever. So anyway, they let that go. But moving forward in the future, students will have to score a 4 or a 5 to be considered proficient on the KELPA. And not this year, but next year,
1 year.
they will only go to 1 year proficiency instead of
2
back-to-back years of proficiency to get out of the ESL program. So that's kind of nice. Now, that doesn't start though for another year. So if
2018.
you had students who were proficient last year, they still have to be proficient again this year. So they still have to test.
The 2 years.
This school year, when they take it in the spring and they're proficient in that, are you saying the next year, 18, 19?
I don't know. I have in 2018, so I don't know if that means this spring is the first time that it starts. We'll have to check.
Okay, that is a question we need to clarify because I know from last year they have to take it again this year, but I don't know if that year 1 starts this year or next year. So I need to get that clarified.
But do know that that's coming where it will just be one year instead of 2.
It is because there was confusion on that webinar. They said next year.
But what do they mean?
Next school year or next in like 2015 of this.
This testing for next school year or next year's testing.
Yeah. We need to get clarification. Didn't.
Was there another way? You know what I do is I download it as an Excel and I delete nearly every column on that report. I just keep the columns that are necessary.
Okay. Next, they talked a little bit about the 2018 ELA math and science assessments was next. Just as a reminder, the writing will now be a part of the history. Well, it was in 2016, but It will be embedded in the history government test, and there's some more information on that here in a minute. So it's part of the 2 sessions. So just a reminder of that. The other thing you need to remember is that in the spring, you have to reserve a date to score the history government writing piece. That is done completely by each district, and you will be scoring your own papers. The training is still out there. It's like it was before. I'm sure they'll give more information on that later. But the big thing is you need to remember you're going to have to score those on your own, and you have to score them during the testing window. So one thing I sent back was you might want to test history government a little bit earlier in the window instead of later, so then your teachers have time to score the papers before the end of the window. So that's just kind of a little thing to keep in the back of your mind.
And the other thing along with history government is they are telling us
It's down there.
that information is going to come from this year. So for 6th grade, it will be out of the ancient Greece unit.
It's down here.
It is, okay. And for 8th grade, building a nation unit, and 11th grade, civil rights and social change. And he made a big deal about talking about that for 11th grade, that is a conversation you're going to want, because I guess that unit
The timing
comes later in the year, and so you're going to want to maybe have them move that up and ensure that has been taught prior to state assessment.
So all that information is here.
I know this is going to be like my dig at it, but so state assessment's driving curriculum, there's curriculum driving state assessment.
Yeah.
That, I got to tell you, that fires me up a little bit. Like, I'm sorry this doesn't fit your curriculum, but.
Okay, I'm gonna go back up. This year they are doing something for the first time, and they are called interim predictive assessments. These are only for math and ELA, and there are 2 dates in the fall, 2 dates in the winter, and 2 dates in the spring when you can administer those to your students. These are the type of assessments that you have to run a task record through for the students to be able to take them. It's not a regular test collection. You just have to have the task collection uploaded. These are voluntary, but what it'll give you in the fall is, and it's not by the group, it's individual student data right now. Later on, they will make it more class type data so they can look at it as a whole. But it'll show you in the fall where your kids are at and kind of predict how they're going to perform on the state assessments. They can take it again in the winter and again in the spring, and you can get a pretty good gauge, and maybe it'll help drive instruction. I don't know. Again, you don't have to do it at all, but it's there. The other thing that they mentioned was, and I just lost my train of thought.
Are there
2 days. 2 days. These are the dates right here. Oh, wait. Oh, I see.
October 16th through October 27th.
Here it
Is it 27?
It's October 16th to the 27th.
Okay, thank you.
And then December 4th to the 15th.
And then the 5th through the 16th.
Okay.
Sorry, you're right. Yep. I'm gonna look at them and see. I might in the fall just to see. The other thing they said was they have them set up where they're only going to be testing content in the fall that is typically taught in the fall. So they won't be exposed to questions that they're not going to be getting until later in the year. So it'll be timely. So really the data should be pretty good because they won't be throwing questions in there, say in 4th grade math, that aren't taught until the spring. That might come later in the middle of the year or toward the end when you do the predictive interim later in the year. So no, you get predictive part in the fall, winter, and spring. This is different. This is different.
Needed something, we can let our tech person know, so we need state testing.
Yeah. These are different than the interims from last year. These are
But it'll give you a tech check too.
Yeah.
The
You're
other
concerned about that.
The way that the data will be reported to the teachers this year too is that they will get a printout, or they'll get a report on each individual student, and it will show by question if they missed it, or if they got it partially right, or if they got it completely right. that will be the most helpful piece, I think, to tie in teaching.
Yeah.
Back to helping these kids learn the skills that they need to have as an assessment. You will not yet,
Get
you will
class.
be coming out with, the thing I want is a one-page class breakout of these kids all miss this skill and, you know, all that, but that's coming, it's just not ready this year. But there's a detailed student book that the teachers will get.
Is it one test? Because last year it was by subject.
No, yeah, so what they've done, this is gonna be more of a holistic kind of test for the content area. They took last year's testlets or former year's questions or whatever, and they compiled these interim assessments, so everyone will take the same interim assessment in that window. They still have those formative, like the formative tests too, the little tests that teachers can take, but that's different than the interim.
So you said that predictive piece and making all that state assessment and
Driving. Yeah. Randy Watson is the one that wanted this interim assessment, which to me is, yes. But he was the one that wanted it, and they dumped a lot of money into it, so. Yeah.
So we can get all of that.
So the other thing they indicated was if your students do take the interim, predictive interims, there will be an interpretive guide that's available for the teachers. It's not out, but it will be coming out soon. You can see here, there's descriptions of what students score on each question. Student has to answer, there's 25 questions to get a score. That was the other thing. If they don't answer all 25 questions, they will not get any score at all. So I just want to throw that out. So you remember, like if they're like, why didn't this kid get a score? Because they didn't finish it. And it said if they don't finish the whole thing, you get nothing. Which I thought was kind of interesting.
And along with the interims too, remember the support documents, the claim documents that are out for each grade level that kind of show how the tests were developed and what students need to know. You guys know what I'm talking about, the claim documents. Those can tie back in with interims, like those two components together can help inform instruction.
The next part was on DLM. So those of you that have teachers that are administering the DLM, which is for your significantly, what would you call it? Kids that, what's the word? Yeah, it's like the new alternate. I'm sorry, I was trying to think of different lower cognitive levels that severe cognitive disability. This is just some information. The fall window starts on September 20th. It runs, I believe, through the December 20th. There is, I have some other information for you, but this is something where your teachers at this point in time should be letting you know if they have any DLMs. If they do, then you have to go into the KITE portal, or your test coordinators do, and they have to upload a roster, which contains information about, an enrollment an enrollment CSV file that has information on the kids. Then you also have to submit or upload a roster CSV file, which assigns them to the certain DLMs that they are taking. There is something, and it's in your agenda, that's called the Data Management Manual. In that manual, it tells you what specific informations have to be filled in for each of those fields in those CSV files. I will tell you right now, they do not match up with PowerSchool. They don't match up with any data management system. You have to go in and change them to match what they're asking for. I sent it up 10 times because I don't like to read sometimes, so I just kept sending it up. And I finally got that management guide out again, and I went column 1. Okay, if they're Hispanic, then you have to put in a yes or a no, as where like our PowerSchool pulls a 1, 2, or a 3. It's not going to match when you go in and you try to pull those fields in a report from your data management system. So just remember that and try to do it when you're feeling like you have a lot of patience, and can do that. If you did it last year and your kids are the same, you can, instead of doing an enrollment upload, you can go in and find the student in the Kite portal and you can update their grade. And then their enrollment is done. You'll still need to do a roster, but if your kids are already in there from last year that are still taking the DLM, you don't have to do, you can do a whole new enrollment CSV file upload, but you don't have to. So it's kind of confusing. If you have questions, just ask. In some cases, your interlocal or your co-op probably takes care of it. It's going to vary for everybody.
I was gonna say, who are the go-to people in this room that know, like, you know that stuff, you know that. Who else are the go-to people in this room if you have questions about all that back-end stuff?
Who hasn't ever done that before?
And it's supposed to.
You should be fine. Okay.
I mean, you don't have to do it, yeah, it doesn't matter, but like these two would be the go-to people. Anyone else in the room that is part of your job duty and you are willing to help someone else know how to do that? Okay, Kelly? Yeah, I'm not sure though if I have to do the DLM setup or something.
Right, and it varies depending on.
Sure, but I did have to do all the documenting and
Right. That's different.
We have a school psychologist.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm gonna skip the next thing. Then you have information here about history government. So as Rebecca said, the assessment, there's no longer anything called a multidisciplinary performance task, although the writing piece is embedded into the history government assessment at grades 6, 8, and 11. They said it's identical to the scoring that was done in 2016 on the writing.
So they're expecting the social studies teacher.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to grade. And then this is the content that will be covered at each grade level on the writing piece. What do you mean?
I think you could have additional score.
Someone have 5th and 6th or 6th.
Sure.
You could do that. Yes, anybody can score it. It's just
that you get to score your own this year.
and it won't be 110%. It'll just be however many you have. There's some KELPA information on here just about testing. They did indicate that there's a help tab where all the materials should be available. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. There's some stuff on CPAS. And then there is, for test coordinator, there are webinars in 2017, and here's all the information about those. I'm assuming information will come out with the links, or they'll be sending us out information. So if you want to learn more about the topics that are here, these are the dates. There's a couple that they still haven't finalized. Again, test security online training instead of having to do it live. Some of these I'm going to skip. Down here below, there's information about ESA, however you pronounce it. These are the 5 indicators where we're going to be held accountable. So just so you remind yourself, I have lots of spelling errors in here, so excuse my spelling, but here they are. Kindergarten readiness, they're getting close to having that decision made on what tool they're going to use. They've talked a lot about the, I can't remember the name of it. Yes, but it has to get approved. They are going to be providing training later this school year, and then the test will be administered in the fall of 2018. And a reminder that this is just to measure the skills that kids are coming into kindergarten with. It's not to be used to say you can't go to kindergarten and you can't. It's just to see where your kids are coming in at. Post-secondary date data, one thing they mentioned was that they're going to start looking at a 4-year cohort goal instead of a 5-year. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that might be something that you start to hear some information about. And then there was just some information about the annual conference here, which is really just general information. So questions about state assessments, again, Rebecca has really good notes and probably has more information in her document, and they're both there. So when you go back and you want to read through it, it's all there. So don't panic if you didn't catch something that we were talking about. You should be able to find all of it in one of our notes, if not both. You don't submit a test for DLM. It's all in through KITE. That's task will be the only thing you need to submit now.
We do that this fall, last year.
They didn't say. What's your reasoning for submitting a test collection now? Why would you want to do it? But what about all the kids that move in? What if you have kids? You just read. They didn't say. They didn't mention it. It's a good question. I always wait till the spring, so it wasn't something that I was prompted to ask. But anything else?
The big thing to do, if you haven't already done it, is to get in and spend some time with
Your users.
That's really the biggest thing, making sure the roles are assigned correctly, since those other ones are going away, and deactivating anybody who's left the district. That's going to make it easier on all of us. If we would all do that, like sooner than later, then when we go to put our new staff in, it's going to be a much easier thing for each other to do. If it's somebody that has a role that's they aren't being deactivated by the state.
You deactivate them.
Their roles are being changed, not deactivated. So like principals are
She said they
being
left.
defaulted to whatever.
But are you talking about somebody that left your district or some? That's different. Somebody that leaves your district, you do have to deactivate them so another district can claim them.
Right. So I'm saying, so no, the state does not deactivate.
No, they're just going to.
Yeah. That's what I was trying
It'll
to
default them into a role that they, like if they used to be a scorer, now they're just going to be a teacher. Like it'll.
So he was.
But check it.
You guys do what you're going to do. He's like, you're taking a big risk that we're going to change it. He preferred that we go through the process of going. It's today, but oh well, you know, I'm done either. So I'm just telling you what if you look on my notes, the very last thing down there is my to-do list, and that's on my to-do list. It's on mine too. It's actually mine. It just hasn't happened yet. Oh.
And if when we take a break, if you want, I can pull up the KITE portal, and if you need some help showing you where that is, we'd be happy to do that. So the second part of the state assessments here, I just put in some links to those DLM documents. This one is the dynamic learning maps link. This takes you to the home page of the dynamic learning maps page where your teachers have to go. And I don't know if I already linked it to Kansas, but you have to go to the state and you have to click on Kansas because the way we do our DLMs might be different than another state. So if that doesn't take you right there, then you need to make sure that you look at the state and make sure Kansas is selected. This, for test coordinators, is kind of your Bible. If you're having to set things up, this is the one that helps you with the enrollment and the roster upload and has all the information about what needs to be typed into those fields so you don't get an error report when you submit it. And then this is just something I made for my teachers. You don't have to do this. Is a quick reference guide for my teachers that are giving the DLM, and it just has some basic information for them about getting started with the KITE portal. It has the information on the DLM windows there. It has the professional development that the teachers have to do. So here's the one thing you need to be aware of is KSDE has webinars that the first one started yesterday, and they're there. The link to the webinars is there. Especially if you have new people, it's kind of those webinars where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna shoot myself, like those. But actually for somebody that's new, it probably might be somewhat valuable because they have no clue what they're doing. So those are there. And then the biggest thing with DLM, and if you have people that have never given it before, what they don't understand, unless somebody's telling them, like your interlocal or your co-op or someone, they have to go through 4 modules of training, and they have to set up an account in Moodle. They have to go through the 4 modules. If they're a returning DLM test giver, they have to do 1 module. So this has to be done before they can go in and complete their first contact survey and their PNPs. They cannot do anything until they've done this required training. So the manual is right there. You can link right into it. I pulled it from that website. So they can do that. And then these are the other manuals that are valuable at this website that they may want to go in and look at. My biggest suggestion is if you have, like I have 2 DLM veterans and I have 2 DLM newbies. DLM veterans, you're gonna sit down and you're going to help my 2 new people, or at least be there for support when they are going through the module training and they're trying to get into the portal and where's the first contact survey, where's these PMP, where are the PMPs at? Because they've never done it before, they have no idea. So that's what I suggest. You may have a great co-op that comes out and they're like, well, we're gonna have a full day training for the DLM teachers and we're gonna show them how to do everything, to an interlocal that does nothing. So you're gonna have to figure it out. And everybody's a part of a different thing. So this is just what I do. Ours is kind of in the middle where they kind of give some support, but not probably as much as they should. So this is just a little help document. You're all welcome to take it, copy it, make it your own, put your own logo on there, whatever you need to do. Any other questions about state assessments?
And I think, Holly, we'll go ahead and, if you're okay with that, go ahead and take a break.
Yep.
For lunch, and then at 1 o'clock, Kyle, from UC Wisconsin, he's the tech integration specialist or tech director. He's amazing, and sharing 2 really amazing tools with us that we can use to lead. I mean, book studies and meetings. Cindy, you were saying several things. You guys are all
Yeah, we use them kind of as a reflection tool. It's a great idea. Like if you have a big meeting and you're like, okay, your exit ticket, both of these could be exit tickets as a reflection tool. Both of these are ways you could do a book study without having to get in and write like a chapter 1 summary or something you could do. Both of these, they're a lot faster tools, and I think it's the heart of it. You can also then share it with teachers, and teachers could use it for a way of doing book reports. So there's lots of applications. You can use as a leader or.
So, Holly and I will be taking the things that we have up here, and we'll be sending out a form to see how to prioritize the time we spend in here. And if there are any other ideas of how you want it structured, because I think some of the things, for example, like testing coordinator, not everyone does testing coordinator duties. So maybe we split into groups or we split up so that it's very differentiated and it maximizes you have. So you have that voice and choice of your own collaboration. Now, one thing, do we want to reiterate do you want to do PC next time, or does that need to be done now?
Some of these, let me just show you. So the way the agendas are set up, for example, down here, some of you are working on PDC handbooks or have recently submitted those or updating those. So this was just really a way to share your PDC handbook. And if you go into this link, you can create a folder or you can dump your districts in there if you're willing to share it. So this is really just more of a sharing thing. So if you're creating something new, you can beg, borrow, steal, get ideas, and then we can talk about it a little bit. Then the next one is really KISA, and this is really large. So it'll just be some conversations that we'll start having on KISA with some links. I mean, you're welcome to go into those and look at some of the examples and documents, but you don't have to. This is just a dynamic speaker list that we have ongoing here where you can open it up and type somebody that you've had come in, put their contact information in there. It's just always in there. Then this one right here is like I went in and actually just created a new document. This is collective notes that we've taken in the past. with a bunch of stuff in it. So if you click on that, you can open it up and you'll find all kinds of things in there. And then at the bottom, we'll always have what our PM topic is going to be. And you can see here, we added that in there, and typically a time. And then the other thing that we'll try to do, if we can do it successfully, is we always try to put the recording of the meeting in here. So if you wanted to go back and listen to something, or you missed something, you're like, ooh, I can go listen to the recording and see what she said or what we were talking about. That link will be there, and it's for other people that couldn't join us today as well. So
and the learning today will probably be from like 1 to 2, and then you can have your time or whatever, and it is optional. So I do want to kind of get an idea of how many people will be after lunch. So if you'll raise your hand, just so we know for Kyle's purpose. And it's okay if you don't.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Anything else?
Nope. Okay. Enjoy your lunch.
I'm excited.
Is it okay if we leave our stuff in here?
Yes.
Absolutely. Make sure you leave lots of cash. And
We're educators. We have fun.
yes, you can leave everything. We'll see you at lunch. Okay. So.
Oh, come on. I'll be here over lunch if anybody needs help with anything. I'm not going anywhere.
It's still $90.
Why is that's doing that?
Right. Well, see, I did 20 points. 20, we make it.
Oh, God.
So they're the same value. So ours is 20 points. Right. So I see what you're saying. People that don't have the right. Got it. I use my
Okay, so.
Bye, Max.
Yeah. Do you want to go 4 to 6 or the? Well, I don't. I was thinking.